Hello, and welcome to another episode of Currently Speaking, the podcast of the Current Consulting Group. I'm Bill Current, president and founder of the Current Consulting Group, and I'll be joined today by Jackie Pirone, the new vice president of the Current Consulting Group. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you, Bill. Very, very excited to be aboard.
Great. Now, I just want to remind our audience that you can find Currently Speaking on all of the popular podcast platforms. You can also find archives of our past episodes. We put out an episode every week. You can find those at currentconsultinggroup.com. You can also find them on our YouTube channel. And if you would be kind enough to like it, to share it, to let other people know about it, we would appreciate it very much. And so with that, Jackie and I are going to just kind of talk free form here today. We don't have a script or anything like that. But I've known Jackie for a long time. She was with Roche Diagnostics back in the late 90s, early 2000s when I first met her. And I'll let her tell a little bit of her history. But when I first met Jackie, I had just started the Current Consulting Group in 1998. And I was, of course, looking for clients. And somebody had recommended me for these traveling kind of road shows that Roche was doing at the time as a potential speaker on their agenda. And so I went up to New Jersey and I met with some people. Was it New Jersey? I think it was, right, Jackie?
Yeah. Yep.
I went up there. I met with somebody. They must have apparently, passed my name on to Jackie. And then one day I got a call from Jackie Pirone. She was in Germany, but she had these road shows coming up the next week and said, you've been recommended. Would you like to join us? And I said, I absolutely would. And so the next week we were on the road. I don't know, we did 2 or 3 cities that week. And that's when I first met Jackie. But Jackie, tell us a little bit about how you got into this. How did you get into the drug testing business?
So I actually started my career prior to Roche Diagnostics at a company. I used to live in central New Jersey. And kind of out in the cow fields was a company called Gynopharma. They are now a subsidiary of J&J, or were acquired by J&J. But at the time, I started in product management and marketing there. And I was there a couple of years, and I just happened to see this advertisement. And, this is the 1990s. So we actually still looked at newspapers for, how am I going to get my job? Like the internet wasn't a thing back then. And saw a company and said, this kind of seems interesting to me. And that was 1995. And that was Roche Diagnostics at the time. Roche, for those that have been in the industry long enough, you might remember the product called Test Cup. So Roche was actually looking to market an all-in-one urine drug test. Prior to this, they had a product called Test Track, and it literally was an individual cassette for every drug that you wanted to test. So cocaine, marijuana, opiates, so on and so forth. And it was like a little chemistry set. And we had a lot of business with the Department of Corrections, the government, and Roche really wanted to break into the workplace market. And they knew at the time that the workplace wasn't going to be able to do a chemistry set. So they came up with this integrated test cup. And for those, again, that have been in the industry, that was the very, very first multiple drug test that was on the market, a rapid test. And all of the successors that we have seen in the market today, whether it be urine, oral fluid, kind of came from that concept of test cup. So I was with Roche for about 15 years, and all within the drug testing world, all within the urine drug testing world. And I remember one of my very first, and again, I'm reaching back to the archives, my very first DTAB meetings I think it was 1998. And they were talking about putting rapid drug testing, oral fluid drug testing, hair, and I think maybe one other, I think we're changing some of the cutoffs for urine, like opiates going to 2000 and whatnot. And I went down to Washington, D.C., and I'm like, this is a really cool thing. It would be great for this. And here we are, how many years later, and finally have oral fluid, but we don't have hair yet, and we don't have point of care. But that really got me even more interested in drug testing. And through my time kind of I wasn't a DTAB member, but they allowed the public, if you will. And so there were a lot of drug testing industry folks that would go to the meetings in Bethesda, Maryland, or actually Rockville, Maryland, I think. We could actually go. And it was really exciting and interesting to kind of watch this whole process. And that's where I really started learning about oral fluid testing, and, just some of the benefits. And there's a lot of really, we all know, a lot of the benefits of oral fluid testing, but there's a lot of cool things that you can now do with different technologies. And I think way back when, in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when oral fluid was just sort of coming on board, it was really great to be able to get kind of on the ground floor, and just kind of see this movement over the years. And so that actually took me to an opportunity for Orshore Technologies in 2010. It's a long story, but Roche had decided that they were going to move what they called their Center of Excellence for Drug Testing and Therapeutic Drug Monitoring, TDMs, overseas. And I actually was asked to go to, you mentioned Germany. I was asked to go to Germany and or Switzerland. It was just not a good time in my life to make that kind of a transition. Orshore I had been working with, because Roche and Orshore were working on a project to actually automate oral fluid assays at that point in time. Orshore asked me to come on board. And so started with them in 2010, and I think kind of it's been really exciting seeing what has progressed from an oral fluid perspective, not from the DTAB meeting and what that's, transpired into from HHS and DOT, but the acceptance of oral fluid. And I think, Bill, you'll remember way back when we were first, kind of looking at oral fluid, we were lucky if 3, 4, 5% of employers even knew what oral fluid was, yet alone used it. And then really to see where we are now from an industry that is looking at 25, 30, 35, maybe even 40 or 50% of drug testing flowing through, to oral fluid. It's really been a really fun, exciting thing to witness. And so kind of a little bit about me.
Let me add something there, which is that, so Jackie, as she mentioned, joined Orshore in 2010, and then she and I reconnected, and Current Consulting Group with Jackie, we've been working together there. And one of the things that I put in our press release when we announced that Jackie had joined the Current Consulting Group was that, in my opinion, there's some really great people in marketing in the drug testing world, but I thought by far Jackie's the best. Okay. Now, I based that in part on the fact that, as she said, when she came to Orshore, the percentages of drug testing providers who offered oral fluid testing back in those days in 2010, 2011, 2012 was a very small percentage. And one of the things that Jackie did from the very beginning was she started, sort of through her marketing expertise, moving oral fluid testing out from behind the shadows. And over the course of time, I think that the marketing that Orshore did in this area was instrumental in getting government agencies, for example, and people in the industry who have a lot of influence with the government to really start to take oral fluid testing seriously. And every year, the Current Consulting Group has been doing for 26 years now. Every year, we've done a survey of the drug testing industry. And as part of that survey, we ask a series of brand name recognition questions. And Orshore, over very quickly after Jackie joined Orshore started ranking number one as the most recognized brand in lab-based oral fluid testing. And I think that had a lot to do with Jackie's, vision of how to promote oral fluid testing. Jackie, tell us a little bit about, some of the advantages of oral fluid testing that you were able to put out there in the industry and market and get people to really sort of start to recognize.
Yeah, I think, there's a number of them. I think first and foremost, the ease of collection, the being able to collect anywhere and any time. And I think, we've seen, sadly, in our post-COVID world, right? We lived through a pandemic. We lived through a point in time where it was very difficult for employers to really know what to do about employees and drug testing. And one of the really, really cool things, not only can you collect and test anywhere, anytime with oral fluid, but we also found the it was very easy to maintain that safe 6 foot distance between the collector and the donor. And so I think the other thing is in our new, one of the post-COVID things we're really finding is our new proctored, virtual world that we live in. Oral fluid lends itself very well to be able to use in a proctored solution. We're seeing a lot of companies now that are doing virtual proctored collections. And you can very easily do that with oral fluid. So I think it lends itself really well to a anytime, anywhere. I think some of the remote locations, some locations that need to look at, a drug test post a first shift. So a second shift overnight. If you use a collection site, you can't really find a collection site that's open, beyond 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. What if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you have an accident and you need to check to see if somebody has used either drugs or alcohol? And I think oral fluid, again, lends itself really well from that perspective, especially rapid oral fluid testing in that particular situation. You can find out, is there drugs or alcohol involved? So I think for all of those reasons, that's probably my number one. The other side of that too is if you look at somebody that's in a remote location, mining, construction, manufacturing, oil rigs, so on and so forth. Really tough to find a collection site that they can go to for a urine test or even any other kind of test. So having the ability to do the test right then and there is really beneficial. I think some of the other ones, adulteration is still a big issue out there. You can look at the Quest Drug Testing Index year after year and see the number of samples that are adulterated. We all have heard stories about Wisinators and, fake urine and somebody taping urine to their leg and warming it up in the microwave and all of those fun things. And so that still exists with urine testing. It's a lot more difficult with oral fluid testing to actually cheat or adulterate the sample. And really the main reason there is it's an observed collection. There's a 10-minute wait. Saliva regenerates every 10 minutes. So even if somebody had used a mouthwash or used gum or something like that, because your saliva regenerates, it makes it much more difficult to actually fool the test, if you will. So that's another reason that we see. And I think, again, really just, the convenience, the ease of use, the not having to worry about urine and a bathroom and all the precautions that you need to take regarding that, the bluing agent in the toilet bowl, just all the checklist upon checklists of things that you have to do for urine testing. So all of those things, I think, lend itself really well.
So in our industry survey in 2023, not this year, but last year, we asked the question, in the future, which drug testing method will be used the most? Now, we've asked that question over the years many times. And it was always urine. That was always number one. And it would, the gap between urine and oral fluid testing was starting to shrink, but it was still urine for many years. And then in last year's survey, 46% of people in the drug testing industry predicted that oral fluid would be the most used method in the future, which was the exact same percentage that predicted it would still be urine. And so that was a tremendous move forward in terms of the impressions and the perceptions of the drug testing industry. And I think that OraSure had a lot to do with sort of influencing the thought process and the acceptance within the industry of oral fluid testing. And Jackie was the architect of that at OraSure, as she was with rapid testing. We used to call it on-site testing back with TestGup in the old days at Roche. But tell us a little bit about sort of your thought process or your thinking when it comes to how you would market oral fluid testing, for example.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's about the education, the education and awareness. And every year we'd go in and we'd do a marketing plan. There's always a big bucket around education and awareness. And it's interesting because, you've got there's a lot of people that look at marketing service. It's a cost center, right? It's not like sales. It's not necessarily bringing in all the revenue dollars. But if you don't have the education and the awareness, it's very difficult to bring in those revenue dollars. So every year I felt like sometimes I had a fight to say, well, no, we still need to do the education and the awareness. And, there are still a lot of people that just aren't even aware that oral fluid exists, or if they're aware, they still have misconceptions. I remember one of the first things we did together when I was at Roche is a myth and fact document, because there's just a lot of uncertainty in the industry, especially back then, about what oral fluid was, and was it as good as, from a performance perspective as urine? How do I use it? How do I change my policy? Like all of those things. So I think first and foremost, a lot of the approach we really took is to educate and aware. And we did this in a lot of different ways. Again, this is before the internet. So we didn't have LinkedIn and we didn't have, Facebook and all those fun things. So there were road shows, there were lunch and learns. We did newsletters, we did webinars. I think, Bill, I remember doing webinars with you, years and years and years ago. And it was a great way to reach people. The nice thing about webinars too is it's a built-in audience they want to know, they've invested 45 minutes or an hour of their time to go on a webinar to learn about what you're speaking about. And so those then became, potential leads for our sales team. But I think, again, it really comes back to the education, the awareness. I do remember a number of times where we actually, I talked about DTAB. We'd get up and we'd speak at the DTAB meeting. We'd put our comments in. We'd go down and we'd be in Washington, D.C. and talk on Capitol Hill. I remember speaking to Patrice Kelly at the DOT a couple of times about the benefits of oral fluid. So again, the awareness and the education isn't necessarily only just to the drug testing industry and, our end users. It's to lots of different people. And so taking that message and really running with that message month after month, year after year, I think that really has helped to get us to where we are now, where oral fluid is just as mainstream as urine is. And then I think the second piece is, once you've got the education and awareness, then it's about, how do I work this into my program? And there's lots of different ways. Like I said before, it's not an all or nothing kind of situation. So if you're using urine, there may be still situations where you want to continue using urine, and you fit oral fluid in. So how do you fix your policy? How do you update things? How do you train? There's another thing OraSure was really big on, was training. Once we got somebody that was very interested and on board with oral fluid, well, it doesn't stop there. You need to make sure that their staff is trained. Their staff needs to make sure their employees understand what's going on. So we had lots of educational material, lots of training materials. We did a lot of videos. Actually, you guys, CCG, helped us with our portal, which was a great learning portal, where we had different modules, not only about the products, but about, drug testing 101, differences between rapid and lab-based, differences between all the different technologies. Really, so that learning continues in a variety of different ways. It's not just once you start thinking about, okay, I want to use oral fluid, it continues because the industry continues to evolve. And I know we're talking a lot about oral fluid, but technology continues to evolve. We're now seeing things, we're seeing all kinds of, who would have ever thought that we'd have a rapid hair test out there? We've got breath testing for THC coming on. We've got pupillary reaction products out there. We've got fingerprint. We've got nail testing. There's all kinds of different technologies. And, again, some people know about them, others don't know as much as they need to. So it's about, again, the education and the awareness.
So here at the Current Consulting Group, I know a lot of people on the podcast today listening know this, but in addition to writing drug testing policies, which we're famous for, we write hundreds of them every year, we provide marketing and brand promotion services to companies in the drug testing industry, including some background screening companies as well. And one of the things that we do, is Jackie mentioned it, is that we have a webinar hosting business. And that really sort of came out of the working together with Jackie over the years at OraSure. OraSure was really, you going back years on this, but OraSure was really one of the very first companies in our industry to do monthly webinars. And part of the advantage to doing a webinar is, one, you get your thinking, your education out there in front of people. People love webinars. There's people in certain professions that get CEU credits out of attending the webinars, and but it's the consistency of getting your message out there. And over the years, the OraSure audience just grew exponentially by being able to do these webinars on a consistent basis. And then we started seeing other companies in the industry doing the same thing. And the other thing I wanted to mention is one of the things that Jackie implemented when she was at OraSure, and this was going back years of also, is this state-of-the-art electronic newsletter. It was almost like an e-magazine called What's the Buzz? And that was really sort of the first newsletter in our industry that was state-of-the-art, where, it's on your computer, but you click on the page and the page turns. That's become very popular now. But OraSure was really the first company in our industry to do that. And that was all under Jackie's leadership. And now at CCG, Jackie will oversee our entire marketing division, which is, of course, marketing Current Consulting Group products and services, but really the services that we provide to many companies in the drug testing industry. And she brings all of that background and expertise to our marketing services as well. Tell us, Jackie, I know you're new. This is your first week, and we're glad to be talking and get this podcast episode recorded. But tell us just a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to marketing in the drug testing industry.
Yeah, again, I think it's the education and the awareness. When I first started working with Bill forever ago, it seems like yesterday, but it was over 25 years ago.
It was in the previous century, Jackie.
It was in the previous century. That is true. It was WFC and Associates. Current Consulting Group has kind of come alongside that with, I think, the expansion of a lot of the services and things that you do. But, at that point in time, a lot of people knew WFC and Associates for policy work. I think the partnership that you and I had from the Roche perspective really got the start of the marketing services going years ago, because really up until that point, it was a lot about just putting policies together. And then it's been really exciting to see CCG grow, and the staff that you have is amazing. I honestly had no idea until I looked at the website, the graphic designers and the writers and, all the folks that kind of make all of this go. But I think really the philosophy here is the promotion of kind of a full suite of services. And I think the recognition of CCG's kind of metamorphosis from a company that, was just a couple of people, just one at one point, right? Bill starting it, but then a few others, from policy development to so many other things. And that's really what's excited me about coming on board. We all know about the statedrugtestinglaws.com. I've used it in both at Roche and at OraSure. Our clients love it. And even from that, we've got the Leg Up newsletter. You've got all these different things that have kind of flourished from that. The LMS system that you have, I don't know how many people know about that, but then there's this whole marketing side, and that's really what interested me. All the other stuff does too, but interested me most is being able to help others promote whatever it is about drug testing, and whether it's to promote their services, whether it's to promote, we have some clients that are on the other side. It's not just the drug testing side, but they're on the return to duty and post, once you have a drug test and it's positive, the EAP side. So there's a bigger world out there relative to drug testing. And I think CCG has, their arms in just a lot of different places, and to be able to expand marketing from just drug testing of oral fluids to lots of other things. I'm really excited about that, and really to get people to be more aware of what CCG does, and, the whole suite of products that you have, services that you offer, people that you have working for you. That's what really excites me. And I'm happy to be on board and, start to really, showcase the things that you guys have been doing and will continue to do.
Well, we're excited to have you on board, Jackie. We're looking forward to it. We just acquired one company. We're in negotiations on another, and we need to market those services to the world. And so Jackie comes in at the perfect time to help Current Consulting Group continue to grow. Jackie, thank you for joining us on this episode of Currently Speaking. I was there for all of that, but the whole history and stuff, but it was great to hear you sort of recount it. I'll give you the last word.
I appreciate that. And again, very excited to be on board. For anyone who's listening, you'll see a lot from us. You'll hear my name. I'm excited to continue the torch of just drug testing and again, the evolvement of where we're going as an industry. And so happy to continue on that front. So thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you, Jackie. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode of Currently Speaking. Again, if you'd like to look at or listen to past episodes of Currently Speaking, go to currentconsultinggroup.com. You'll find an archive of all of our past episodes. Of course, you can find us on all the popular podcast platforms, including our YouTube page, where you'll find past episodes of Currently Speaking. And with that, we'll say goodbye. Have a great day.